Today is December 11th. Welcome to Native Calgarian. Oki, Naganago, Mekoche, Chase Tukom Aki. Hi, my name is Red Thunder Woman. My married English name is Michelle Robinson, and I use she and her pronouns. Native Calgarian is being recorded on the lands of the Nitsitapi, which is the Blackfoot Confederacy. The Blackfoot south of the imposed U.S.-Canadian border are the Blackfeet. North of the border are the Siksika, Gunai, and Bagani of the Confederacy. These lands are Treaty 7, signed September 22nd, 1877, with signatures that include the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Wesley Chiniki Bearspaw Nations of the Stoney, and the Dene from Tsuut'ina. I acknowledge all First Nation, Métis, Inuit, status and non-status across Turtle Island as the keepers of these lands. All non-Indigenous are treaty partners, with the government signing on your behalf. I honor the Blackfoot as the elders and members have been so kind to me on my Red Road journey. Elder Red Crane taught me how to pronounce my spirit name. I was born in Calgary, or in Blackfoot, Mohkinstsis, as Michelle Elliott, an English name which has afforded me privilege in an English colonial world. My mother is Northern Slavey Dene, or Satu Dene, but my Indian Act imposed status card by the Canadian government says Yellowknives Dene. My father is so Canadian, I'm a daughter of the Mayflower and a daughter of the American Revolution, while having an Indian Act imposed status card. My Dene lineage roots me in the land of the Hare people, also called the Great Bear Lake people in Treaty 11. I'm a native to Turtle Island, and my Dene nation is a visitor to this area of Quinchotine Indahe in Satu Dene, meaning many horse town, named after the Calgary Stampede. Land acknowledgements are critical for creating a safer space for Indigenous, as well as honoring the host as the guest, and creating and acknowledging your role as a treaty partner. My humblest apologies to the Blackfoot elders and language keepers as I try to learn proper Blackfoot pronunciation. Any mistakes or misinterpretations will be on me. I encourage questions so that misunderstandings can be cleared up as soon as possible. I do not speak on behalf of all Indigenous. I just share what I know as I walk down the Red Road. My Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you, previous donors, for showing your support. If you value listening or watching and can afford to give, thank you. To those that cannot afford to give, I'd love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com, where you can send in your comments or your questions. Also, giving a review helps, whichever medium you're listening from, and I have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. Go to nativecalgarian.com for the latest podcasts and pin posts on social media. And I want to give a shout out, happy birthday to my late Uncle Gord today. I missed your giggles and your references to Johnny Winter. Even my husband met you, so I'm grateful he got to hear your giggles and share in some of the things that you used to think were so important. So with that, I think the purpose of this particular podcast will be to attempt to discuss what has happened in the last, month. But I want my guests to introduce themselves. Today, I have two very special guests that are the most important people in my life. And I'll start with Samantha. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi. My name is Samantha. I go by she, they pronouns, and I am Two-Spirit, obviously. And I'm also Slavey Dene from up north. And I'm also a Canadian Métis, and yeah. I was born here in Calgary, raised also here in Calgary. And yeah, I'm glad.
What's your spirit name?
Oh yeah. My spirit name is Nanam Skolkin Aki. I'm still trying to pronounce it, but I was given that name by Rose Croshoe. And it means Thunderpipe Necklace Woman. And I was really honored to be given that name. And I'm still coming into it, kind of. It's very recent. Yeah, I think that's all.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, sweetie. Darcy, would you like to introduce yourself, your spirit name?
Hello, I'm Darcy, obviously Michelle's husband and Samantha's father.
And the producer of this podcast.
Yes, the editor and producer of this podcast. My spirit name is Mr. Pasquamastus Osiniacino, which is Big Buffalo Rock Man. And I got that name quite a number of years ago now. I think 5 or 6, maybe 7, something like that. From an elder here in Calgary, Daryl Brass. So
The late Daryl Brass.
The late Daryl Brass, yes.
Yeah, just to honor him too. Well, so a little bit's happened since a month ago. 4 weeks ago, we were having our very first weekend in Lethbridge without having to move back and forth. And our house was up for sale for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we thought we were going to have the best weekend ever. And we did. And then 3 weeks ago and 2 days ago, Darcy, what happened from your point of view?
Well, that was a great weekend. It was nice not to have to drive, and I took an extra day off because it was long, so I could make it. It was right at Remembrance Day. I could make it a 4-day weekend. It was great. And then the following Thursday, I went to work thinking everything was cool. I thought, I'll get to work a little bit early and get some stuff done. And I walked in, and as soon as I walked in, I thought, well, there's a lot of people here for some reason. And they were like, oh, come sit down with us. And basically was just told, we can't keep you employed anymore. And so here you go. You're done effective immediately. And it wasn't an issue with my performance, my job, nothing like that. It was just company issues that I think they tried to grow too fast, too quick, and or too big, too quick. And didn't quite have the financial strength to do so. And there was me and 3 other people really affected by this. So that had all been kind of promoted or, hired. At least 3 other people, maybe 4 or 5 even. They were impacted by this, and they kind of all did it on one day. So it was pretty gut wrenching because the job itself I loved, the group. So at that point I enjoyed working there. So yeah, it was terrible. I was really proud to work there. I had t-shirts and stuff like that. I was just really happy. And then it was just like a gut punch. It was like everything was done. The house was up for sale, so then we were come home. We figure, well, I guess we'll sell the house, and then I don't know what. We're kind of nomads from there. Maybe we'll move. Maybe we'll stay in Lethbridge and look for jobs. I don't know. But it just was not a good day. I don't actually remember what we said or did for most of the day. Like I remember being in the little 3-bedroom place we had, but I remember you sitting beside me and we're talking, but I honestly don't even remember what our conversations were about, other than the obvious. The whole day was just a blur. There's a show that Sam and I like to watch on YouTube, and I don't even remember what happened. It was just a blur. Because their life basically we literally just finished moving for the last 6 months, and now we're figuring out what to do. And then we get a call that the potential sale in the house fell through. So that was kind of a gut punch. I think in the end, that definitely ended up being a phenomenally great thing, because we're, now we're back in Calgary, and now we're, bigger job market, and we're back kind of in our own community. But yeah, it was just 3 weeks ago. It was a very different outlook for I couldn't see any positive at the moment at that time.
Honestly, just talking about it makes my stomach want to just puke all over again. Just talking about absolutely. It. But we have to talk about it. We cannot heal from it if we don't talk about it. Samantha, do you have any memories of that day that you want to talk about, or what would you like to? Here we were thinking we were going to have this new start in this new place, and you just had a new room and you were just setting it up. And what, from your perspective, what would you like to share?
Well, I just remember waking up that day, because I woke up at like noon, as I do. And I just remember like coming out of my room and like we had like boxes everywhere because like we had gone from a 3-story house, like basement, middle floor, and upstairs, and a garage, to a basement suite, which was big, but and like, so we had like boxes like everywhere, and I just remember coming out and like there was like a red swing line stapler on the island as I sat down, and then like you guys like told me, and I was like, I thought you were joking. Like I genuinely laughed, and like I genuinely thought you were joking, and I was like, oh, this is just some prank or whatever, and you had just taken the day off, but it wasn't, and I kind of knew that because of the stapler, but I was like kind of in denial. But then, and then like the whole day afterwards, I'm like, this is a prank, right? This isn't happening, and then the next day it wasn't. So yeah.
So I think we should explain the red stapler. For anybody who's seen the movie Office Space, you'll understand. Now, at my previous job in the oil patch before COVID, when I got laid off from that job, but before that, when I was working there, when I got hired, I got a red swing line stapler, and I started laughing because I'd watched Office Space. And everybody in the office had them. Everybody thought they were really much more attractive than black ones, and nobody got it. And the one thing I regret that I couldn't have done at that company was they laid me off in a remote location so that I couldn't go to my office and get my stuff, so that they would send it to me. So I never got to keep the stapler. And then the story is when I went to interview for this company in when I went to interview for this company down in Lethbridge, it was kind of a joke. Like I mentioned something about a red swing line stapler, and I said, one thing I regret is I couldn't take it home with me because, the guy in the movie is always about his swing line stapler. And so the first day at work, they handed me a red stapler swing line, and we're like, there, and no matter what happens, you can take it home. So like when they told me and gave me the news, I just walked over and I grabbed my stuff and I was like shoveling stuff into my backpack. And I was kind of muttering to myself, and I was like, I am taking a stapler. And, but yeah, so anyways, that's the story behind the stapler.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the worst days in my adult life that I can remember 100%. Just seeing the defeat when you walked in that door, I knew what had happened. And I couldn't believe it. I just immediately had that feeling of I'm going to be sick. And it's been, 3 weeks and 2 days. And I don't know if I've really not had that feeling since, actually. And, and it was just instant shock, just instant. For the first day, I was so upset. I actually started shaking like I was like I had a shiver, but I wasn't cold at all. But my body was shaking, just shaking. I couldn't believe how it had affected me. I was worried I was going to have a heart attack that day. And actually, still worried I'm going to have a heart attack about the whole thing because it took us 6 months to move there. And when we finally knew we were going to be there, it the whole rug got pulled out from us. And the first day was just utter shock. But I think after our realtor called and said that the deal didn't go through, I knew that we had to let him know immediately and take the house off the market. But I just still couldn't believe it. I still couldn't believe that was even an option. So I think we slept on it, and then the first thing we did Friday morning was make the decision. We're taking the house off the market and moving home. Yeah. And we knew, because you had already hurt your arm and your knee, there was no way we could move again the way we had moved there. And I felt so alone and desperate and scared that I put out a post to let everybody know this happened. And because by that time we had told my dad, my family, you had told your family, and I just didn't know what we were going to do. And the whole purpose of this podcast is really to say thank you to every single person that donated, whether it was $1, $5, and I mean, some people donated a lot. And I can't say thank you enough to all the people that did, because that was what was helped us be able to rent a moving truck and movers to get them to get us back to Calgary. And it happened really quick. We had got the truck for Wednesday, I think it was, and so we had basically Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was moving day. But here was the other catch, was that we knew it was November, late November, and we had to get the Harley back to Calgary. So we were looking at the weather and trying to determine, because on Remembrance Day, we couldn't even go because the weather was bad. Oh, this was the other fun thing. Monday, we had our friend come stay with us, like not in our house, but in Lethbridge. He was the first person to come, other than my brother, one of my brothers.
And my friend.
Oh, yeah. To come really visit us. And I think he was even kind of coming to say goodbye to us in a lot of ways. We had a great visit. We assumed things were going to go really good. But then my stupid van broke down again, and we had to get the alternator repaired. And he was in town. He was able to, get you to work and back or something. I can't quite remember how that went down. And anyway, we just got the vehicle out of the car repair shop. Another $2,000 in a freaking car repair, because at $250, all of the vehicles start falling apart, and you have to do all the vehicle maintenance and replacing of stuff. And it was just time for the alternator to go after almost dying on the stupid road a couple of weeks before with the battery going. It's just been a nightmare. And so anyway, then you find out, and we were trying to eat those costs. We were trying to eat the renos that were being done for the house and the car repairs that it was taking just to finally make the transition, knowing that you'd be in a smaller town, you wouldn't have to drive as much, blah 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 blah. Anyway, here we are, huge visa bill, with renos, with the car repair, no job now. And we were in pretty dire straits. So on top of the donations, I kind of put out I need a job right now. And you'd be surprised how many Indigenous women work at Amazon, and told me good things about working at Amazon. So I was actually this close to putting my resume there, but I had a friend call and tell me that he had a job that I could probably get him the resume. I don't think people quite understand. I've literally haven't updated my resume since before Samantha was born. And at that time, it was, so in 2007, this was before iPhones. This was before, a lot of things. We didn't keep, I don't even know if I had my computer file anywhere that it was accessible to me anyway. So I had to make a resume from scratch. And when we had done our move, we got here on Wednesday. I think it was, I started working on my resume, and I sent it to my friend because he offered me a job first. And then he said, I'll send it to this person. So I did. And before I knew it, that got me a job, thank God. But, it was a really scary time because, you and I know there's a huge gap between unemployment actually coming in And now here we are 3 weeks later, and we realize there's a huge problem in the ROE, the what do you call it, the record of employment for those who are not listening from Canada. You get a government issued certificate that, or not certificate, I gotta choose my words better here. Government piece of paper that tells how you were dismissed. Sometimes you're fired, sometimes you're within your 3-month window that you can just terminate an employee, all of these different categories that Canada has for why are you let go. And of course, now we've found out that there was a huge problem with that. And if it wasn't for those donations that came in, like I don't know how we would have put food in the cupboards. But then I can't thank you all enough who made us dishes, literally made us food. We came home and there was this huge box on our doorstep with food in it. And it had cute little gifts. I was just looking at a couple that are surrounding me right now, basically welcoming us home. Awuton Healing Lodge gave us some gift cards to help us with gas and with food. Like immediately we were surrounded by love by the Indigenous community, by folks who listen to this podcast. I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe somebody offered me a job already, thank God. I had people wanting to proofread my resume after I had already gotten my job. So like, how do I say thank you enough to everyone? I don't know, but I know that it's so stressful moving once, let alone twice in a year. And under the circumstances that we were under, to move under these circumstances. And so anyway, we told our landlord, and the text back we got right away were very, they weren't too interested in our plight. And it was really interesting, other people's reaction. Like, you'd tell people, this is what I need. I need donations. And people would be like, I can't donate. Is there another way I can help? Yeah, you can promote the podcast in the hopes that maybe others will listen and others will donate. And, so just lots of questions like that of how to help. And even to this day, I still get messages like, how are you doing? And like, I don't think people understand what trauma really is. I don't think they understand that I have no memory retention. How many times I've gone up and down the stairs and just can't remember nothing. Like I can't remember anything. So I literally have to tell myself to take my meds, all sorts of things. Like I can't focus on anything right now. And it's so interesting because I get like people, they don't understand that. And then when I got my job, which I'm ridiculously grateful for, it's interesting the privilege people have, because, so many people were like, oh my goodness, I sure hope that you find it so rewarding. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what a survival job is, or the trauma that we're undergoing, or like, there's just no reality of understanding of like what this is like to go through with, the loss of the future, the loss of a job, the loss of, starting any roots in Lethbridge, like all of that was gone. Our friend Devin and Miranda, like they put you up for a month with the idea that we would be
Actually,
there.
almost 4 months. Sorry.
Right. Like such good people. And we didn't even get a chance to like chill and hang out with them and do fun stuff. Like, they were always like, hey, come over for a hot tub. And I was like, I totally would love to, but I have a podcast, or I have to run Calgary, or this, like there was always something going on at that time in that it was taking us to move from Calgary to Lethbridge. And that's not even including the 3-month window, when you first get your job, that you're like, is this for real? Like, is this really happening? And trying to find a place in Lethbridge, like it was so stressful trying to just get there, let alone all of this ended like that.
Well, and I think that for me, that's like it. we went into it with so much positivity. It was not just like it was getting pretty desperate when I was looking for jobs before. You know, and I got a couple of offers. Like, it was weird because I got nothing for about 3 solid months. I'm going to say I probably put out a couple hundred resumes, easy. And I got like 3 job offers in a week. So I thought, holy crap, this is going good. But this job appealed to me, and I you know, I heard you said this and reminded me of this when we were going through this, but at the time it was the higher paying job of all 3. It was a totally different industry. It was the industry I wanted to be in. I really wanted to see what it was like to be in the cannabis industry, maybe, you know, get into it, get a foothold in there, and get out of the oil patch and change industries, right? And so there was all this expectation, and then when I actually got it, like the interview was really good. When I went down for the interview, they were smoking like steaks on the barbecue out back. They had like a ping pong table, they had leather couches, big screen TVs. So it was like, you know, they affectionately called it the mullet. It was business up front and party in the back, and you know, just everything about it seemed great.
And they were expanding. They had all these different locations, right?
Yeah, and they had a bunch of stores, and so, like, honestly, and then everything was great. I mean, the people that work in there were happy. There was no egos, there was no fighting. It was sometimes the job was stressful, but like, it was a very stress-free environment. If you wanted to take a 5-minute break and go shoot some basketballs in the back, you could, you know, that kind of thing. It was very relaxed. So when we went to Lethbridge and this new job, and it looked like it was going to be great, and even coming to Lethbridge, there was a lot of positivity. Like, it was a change. It was new. It was scary to move, and it was tough, but it was like, but this is new, and this could be a whole start of something. And then, you know, we were talking about buying a house down there, and I was looking at getting a second vehicle already, because like, just a beater to go back and forth to work from, literally just in the wintertime. You know, there wasn't 2 wheels with, you know, with no heater. And it was like, you're trying to start planning ahead. And I did a performance review. Everything was great. And we kept going on, and we did all these, you know, everything seemed phenomenally great. And so it was just really optimistic. I started even thinking ahead to like, geez, maybe this summer we could do this. And I started like, you know, kind of researching it when I had time, like, well, what is there? Where could we stay? And then it's just to have all of that just like instantaneously crushed. And then it was like, okay, well, we've had all this positivity about being here, but now like, I don't want to be here. And then to have to pack up and box everything up and get it ready to go in like 4 days. We were low on, definitely didn't have the money to pay for movers. It was just very scary. I didn't know how we were going to get out of there. I didn't know how we were going to get back here. I know it couldn't take another 6 months. It couldn't take another month. You know, and of course it's Christmas now. And so now, like, there's a package that's showing up in Lethbridge sometime between now and the mid of January. You know, so there's all these little things, but like, just the fact that we were so like, we were just starting to spread out, and like, yes, this is going to be so great. And Sam was happy, and then it just like, done. Like, no, you can't have that. It was hard, but I think the biggest thing that I realized now, looking back a little bit, that actually I think helped a lot, was just seeing the support from everybody that donated or sent comments, or, you know, friends that were supportive. I have a couple of close friends that emotionally were very supportive, very needed. But really, that was like, we definitely should be coming back to Calgary. Like, it's clear where our community is not and where it is. And I'm not saying anything bad about other people that live at Lethbridge. It's just that we didn't even have time to really get roots in that community. So, but this community was like, get back here. Like, we want you back here. And honestly, I don't know how you thank people enough. I really don't.
Yeah,
No, we were in big
honestly.
trouble. Samantha, honey, I know Dad kind of touched about how happy you were. Do you want to talk about what this has been like for you?
Sure. I mean, it was like I was excited about it because like I had a bit of a bigger room, and I was excited because um like I was moving closer to like one of my best friends, and because I like never get to see them, so I was really excited about that. And like I was excited to like kind of start new, sort of, but like have a bigger room and like get a new house. And like if like we got a new house, then like I could like help decorate it and all that. I mean, I guess I kind of get to do that now, but like it's just a bit different because it's the same layout as before. Um, but honestly, like um, I think the move and like everything that's happened has affected you two more than me somewhat, because like um, yep, teenage years. You you guys get to see like the financial stuff, and like you guys legitimately have to like worry about stuff like that. And like because I don't really see it, I'm just like not really thinking about it, or like thinking about it, but like I don't know, you know so I'm actually a lot happier moving down here because like um I've like I had a lot of anxiety going to that house because of things, creepy crawlies, I will say. And like my room like is really good for that, like in this house, um and stuff. But I think it's just been, I see a lot of the positives because like I'm so glad we got to purge. So glad. Like we needed to get rid of so much stuff in our house. Like we had pathways in our house, and we just had like everything everywhere kind of thing. Like we just weren't organized, and we weren't utilizing the things that we loved and stuff like that. So like my shelf, I'm quite proud of this shelf, but like now I get to see all of that, and like I have places for all my little trinkets now, and I know which stuff I want to keep, which stuff I don't. And I got a lot of like my little kid stuff out, and like gave it away and stuff like that because like I'm not using it clearly.
Oh, you know what?
um,
I never got a chance to tell you and Dad something. Um, I'm on the Abbeydale Facebook group, and unfortunately, somebody's garage got broken into, and a bunch of their stuff was stolen. And I was kind of, sad for them, obviously, but inside, I was thinking, man, we had garage sales. We couldn't give our stuff away. And
yeah,
these poor folks had people break into their garage just to take their stuff. And I'm like, I know I don't have anything of value because even when I was trying to sell it, people didn't want it. So I thought I
it's
was
very
thinking
true.
about that through this entire process, like stuff that's so valuable to me that nobody cares about whatsoever.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was very interesting because like the garage sales and stuff, like it was just like it was so amazing to see how much stuff we didn't need. And I'm not saying like we're hoarders or whatever, like it wasn't that bad, but like it was like getting to the point where it's like we need to clean up. And like all three of us were like we need to clean up, but like none of us were kind of really willing to do it. So when we finally like we had this like kick in the ass where it was like um or it was like just get moving and get like organized. So honestly, and like I don't see how we would have done it any other way either. So because like if we didn't have the threat of like you need to move everything into a small and like half the size of your house, not even, um then like we probably wouldn't have gotten rid of a lot of things. And like, so I just kind of like look at it like that, where it's like, this is really good for us. And I know it's pretty shitty right now. Sorry. But like, it's, but like, I think in the long run, and I think we all know this, but it's just in the long run, it's going to be a lot better for us. Especially because like we just have our things straight. Like, well, yeah, my things aren't straight.
Dad, I was wondering, do you remember, was it like 3 tons of stuff that we had gotten rid of?
Yeah, I think just to the dump alone, mind you, we did have a lot of yard stuff that we had to get rid of, but I think it was pretty close to 2 tons or something. Yeah, in the end,
Yeah.
just stuff that went to the dump. Yeah.
Our realtor was so excited to sell this place, and he did this amazing job in so many ways. He is like the unspoken hero in all of this entirety, actually. He worked with us for months on trying to get our house sold and out. And I feel so awful that he never ended up getting our sale. I want anyone who is in the Calgary area to know Michael McCafferty is the realtor that we were working with, and he went above and beyond. He, it wasn't just the aesthetics. He literally painted wall our wall to go down. He painted around our trim. He's just, and he was the one who gave us direction on what needed to be done first and move forward. He brought in the contractor that did our bathroom. I have nothing but positive things to say about this realtor that never even ended up getting our sale, and I feel so awful. So if you know anyone who needs a realtor in Calgary, Michael McCafferty. And we need to write a really nice positive review on Google. I tried the other day, I couldn't even make it work, so I don't know what I'm going to do there, but that's where he said he wanted his positive review at. And this is a guy that really helped us with, okay, what do we do first? The floors, the painting, bathroom, and he was the one who really helped guided us through all of it, and he went so above and beyond. So I'm bringing him up for so many reasons. Another one was that once we emptied our house, he did what was called staging, where he brought in his own furniture, his own pictures and such, and he made it look a million times better. So it kind of gave us an opportunity to look at the house with a different set of eyes. And I was that helicopter mom who like dead bolted all of the everything into the wall because I didn't want my daughter or any of her friends hurting themselves. So these were things that we had to like undo. I have a 14-year-old girl who everyone, because of COVID and we have to have these IDs, assumes that she has ID. So I'm finally getting her Alberta ID, whatever. Bigger picture here, that we finally get to look at our house with a more adult set of eyes and set it up properly. And the stuff that we had downstairs that we didn't want little kids to be hurt with or be bothered with, like little rocks and such, we could finally bring up, and she's seen them for the first time, sadly. These were things that we could redo our house now with a whole different set of eyes. We're not there yet. We just got, like, it seemed to take forever to get all of the drapes up on the windows. It took 3 days at least in order for us to get that done. Like it was so hard moving back here. And then your back hurt. We hurt, your back ended up getting hurt. I don't think people understand the amount of stress and trauma this has caused us. And financially, like obviously we still haven't got Revenue Canada figuring out our stupid finances. So, it's, if I didn't have this job, I just don't even know how we'd make our bills for January at this point. So I just can't thank folks enough for, the food, the love, the support, and the donations, obviously. That was what helped us be able to get here. And the one good day that there was, Darcy was able to ride his motorbike here, and thank God, because now there's snow all over Calgary. Lethbridge, the road there and back. Today we went to Lethbridge to do the final walkthrough with the landlord. And of course, we had all these weekends from the time that we lost our job to now. And the landlord obviously wasn't going to come, and this was their weekend that they would come. And wind warning, and wherever the range roads and township roads met the highway, like just so much snow, and the wind was blowing, and semis were pulled over, and I was just and sadly the roads were great compared to other times I've seen them. So remember that one weekend that I was supposed to have massage in Cairo and naturopath, and yeah, of course it snowed, and I still haven't gotten a massage or chiropractic adjustment for, it feels like freaking ever now. My body is definitely in 10 out of 10 trauma mode. So I know Monday I had a really bad headache, and I can feel I have another one coming, but it's the weather changes too. So it's just so much stress. I can't even describe it.
Well, and I think that's the hard thing is it was stressful. Like the news was gut wrenching. The whole plan for the rest, I mean, not even just the rest of the year, but the rest of the next 5 years is now changed. But then it was okay, but we got to get back to Calgary. We got to get out of this place. We got to
get jobs.
So there's the speed of getting out of there. And then, and then when we get here, it's the unpacking. It's like, so now we're at this point where we still have a considerable amount of boxes, and it's like, well, I need this. I don't know where that is. What box is it in? I don't know. And so it's just like the whole chaos of it all. And you can't really focus on setting things up because you need to do a resume. You need to get a job. You need to get these things going. So that's going to take hours out of your day that you can't unbox. And then unfortunately, I met with some ice that decided to have a fight, and I lost, and my back got hurt for a few days.
Yeah, no.
It was just things like that. And then of course, so I couldn't even twist. I couldn't, anyways, but it's still just chaos. And so the stress never really goes away because you're here at home, and for brief moments, like you can watch a movie and have, and enjoy it and think, okay, I'm feeling good. But then it's like reality creeps back in, and you look around and like everything's still in boxes, and I gotta spend a few hours a day putting out resumes. I gotta try to do this. I gotta try and find ways to, and it's just chaos. And I feel like the last I know for the last 7 months, it's just been chaos. And so, to thank everybody is I just feel like it's not enough. But the one thing I will say is we're not vegans, none of us, and we don't have any problem with people that are vegan. But I will say that the vegan lasagnas that people have brought over have been absolutely phenomenal, and I have been very impressed. So
yeah, they were really good. They were really good.
And that's a good recommendation because she doesn't like a lot of vegan stuff.
No, I had vegan macaroni and cheese once, and I did not like it. It was not my thing. But it was like the lasagnas were phenomenal. Honestly, some of the best lasagnas I've ever had, honestly.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to make sure we said that. Some of the food that came in the original box, like I couldn't believe it. It had like little tiny brownies that are like, I can't even go on. Like, it even had an apple crumble in it. I had friends come over right away. We used to have a big fire pit. During the move, we sold it, got rid of it, and I put grass there, blah blah blah. But now we have one of those little portable fire pits, and now we can have fires at the full moons and for ceremonial reasons and such as well. So I am excited that we at least have that right now. But yeah, right now such a scary time, and my new job is fabulous, but it's Calgary Transit. This is the best Calgary Transit I've ever had since '95. Finally have a seat. Finally, we're not packed in like frickin' sardines. And the stupid, oh my God, the city is like, oh my God, we're going to have to raise our taxes. Mama, there's not enough ridership. I'm like, literally, this is the first time I've ever had freaking seats, you mother. But anyway, these are obviously folks of a different privilege that don't know what it's like to ride freaking transit. So anyway, transit, of course, if I'm not leaving the house at 7:30, I'm not making it to work at 9. Same thing for coming home, 6:30. You get off at 5, you're 6:30. So I mean that's a long day. So people are calling me, and if I can even call them back the same day, there's just like this small window from like 7 till 9 that I can talk now. And the podcasts are going to be hard because all my guests are going to have to now be evenings and weekends, and you and I know how hard it is to get a guest anyway, let alone on a very specific time. So I'm not even 100% sure where this podcast can go, because so for example, people were like, oh my God, but you do this and this and this. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't pay me nothing. Like I do lots of work that I get $0 for. And, I told people, like, you think there would be a niche for anti-racism training, diversity training, land acknowledgements, but there actually isn't. And the type of emails I get from folks where it's like you have to do 4 hours of labor for maybe 15 minutes sometimes. Like it's just incredible. And then a lot of times they just don't even pay you. So yeah, I had tried for years to get people to understand like the importance of a review, the importance of telling your friends and such. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're here and I have to work, because there was no way we could make this, something that actually brought in income. Despite how popular the actual podcast is for free, we just couldn't make it an actual business that we could rely on it for wage, because there's just not a want, not a desire. And I mean, every day I call it out on social media. Settlers, they're like, oh my God, I'm such a good ally. I wore an orange shirt one time, but I didn't have any idea what it meant for. And I was so shocked. Like, this is another thing over this last year. I mean, I was ready to go into counseling when we were finally settled into Lethbridge because of the gaslighting from settlers. Like, I mean, TRC told us in 2015. I mean, that's not all of the decades before that. All of the elders were telling everybody, like, we're killing our babies, and they're in unmarked burial sites all around. And settlers are like, fucking Indians, I can't believe they fucking say something like that. That can't be true. And for so many years, they gaslit us. And now here it is, we have over 8,000 burial sites that have been found now. We know there's more. And, Canadians are pearl clutching. Actually, worse, they have the audacity to tell China, oh my God, you guys are committing genocide and you're the worst human rights violator. No, 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 no. And they I won't even acknowledge what's happening here to us. And I mean, well, we're in way better position than a lot of other Indigenous people. Mm-hmm. Right today, I'm sharing 2 people that I absolutely love to pieces, sharing their story. They are literally homeless. And like it's almost Christmas. By the time this airs, it'll almost be Christmas. And I just think there's such a huge disconnect from Canadians to Indigenous and the reality, despite all of the things we share, all of the free information we give. I was really pissed the other day because one of our people that was on my Facebook page, I was, bitching about the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs and Canadians' ignorance, because, here they are at gunpoint again for the 3rd year in a row. And Canadians are like, oh my God, I'm going to get ready for Christmas. Well, these folks are literally watching their house being burned in front of them. And, we have such a disconnect. I had how many people being like, oh my God, I sure hope you have, such a rewarding, fulfilling job. I'm like, what reality do we live in that you think that it's acceptable to say that to somebody, Anyway, yeah, I was ready to go into counseling over the Graves issues and the stupid Canadian gaslighting. And I just, if it's 2021 going into 22, there's still just such a disconnect. I can't make a living doing any type of diversity training. And in fact, Calgary police are doubling down and like, we're not racist. Literally have never instituted the calls to justice, or now the 231 calls to justice, but the calls to action, the justice component. And they're just like, oh, we're anti-racist.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I'm back on the C train, right? And the amount of Indigenous people constantly being harassed by people in uniform, like it's so infuriating. And again, there's like a huge disconnect from counselors, obviously the police, to the regular citizens, to the Indigenous population. Like, there's so many levels of I just don't know if we'll ever have an understanding of each other in any capacity, frankly. So I'm grateful that the folks that listen to this podcast gave us donations this one time, because this was the one time we needed it.
Well, and and it's tough because you do have some Patreon members, and I mean that helps. I mean, it really does cover a lot of it covers the costs for the show. There's some internet hosting costs and things like that. But again, it's you're talking about the disconnect, and it's like, but it's not the people listening to your show that are supporting you on Patreon that can book rooms full of people that for their corporation that can maybe start doing some learning about how to let's start the process of becoming less racist, bigoted, hate filled, whatever. Like,
yeah.
So it's the disconnect from the part of society that doesn't even care. They're just, no, we're business as usual, and what's wrong with that? So it's the people that care that are supporting on Patreon, but unfortunately, for the general part of Canada, they're just like, if it's not talking about sports, beer, or Canadiana, like moose and hockey, like we're just not going to pay for that. We're not going to advertise on that. We're not going to be part of that. And it's the plague of every podcast that's not mainstream, that's not just either towing a line of something, but so that's just the plague. And it is unfortunate, because this podcast is great. There's so many that just kind of die out because there's no support for them.
Mm-hmm.
And the little support that does comes from the community that always supports. And it's almost like, like these same people always give. And some of the people on your Patreon even gave more. And it's like,
yeah,
and those people you can't help but love. I mean, you can't help but be grateful for.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you need, in order to make a living, you need to make it a business kind of thing. And it's just not there. So it's unfortunate, because it would be great if people valued this kind of content so much, and other Indigenous content,
right?
That those content creators, yourself and everybody, could actually make a living doing it. I would love to see that. I'd love to see companies advertise to smaller podcasts, want to advertise on them, because they are a more focused audience.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not, $100 million like Joe Rogan, but, to a small podcaster, $500 a month is a huge thing. And so, and that's just the unfortunate side of it. But yeah, it's tough, because all those things you're doing now kind of have to go on the back burner.
All of it. I can't even make liberal meetings now. It sucks.
Yeah. But, and then of course, as time goes on, like, you're going to be, you had a long day at work, you're tired. Do you want to jump on 9 Zoom calls now between here and midnight? Like, it's
after being on a computer all day. Yeah.
Yeah. And I harbor a lot of resentment towards the individuals that were running that company that I left. For not even just what they did to me and my, my plans, my hopes, the job that I really loved so much, but it's the impact that it had on you and your life. Like, now you have to completely turn a 180 and change your life. Our realtor is not going to get that house sale. The people, our landlords, had, despite what I didn't like about our interactions with them, the truth is that they do have to advertise now. They have to come down. They have to do walkthroughs, things like that, and all of that because these guys couldn't run a company, and they just decided to hire a bunch of people when they knew they couldn't afford them. And the lie that they told for the entire time of, no, we're fine, everything's great, right up to like 2 days before I was let go. It's like, no, everything's great. So it's just like, it's so unfortunate that so many lives had to be impacted, and it is hard to simply ask for financial help.
Oh, it was so hard to put out that tweet, and then I'm so grateful for those who stepped up, because I don't know what would have happened, and I don't even want to think about it because I'm already 10 out of 10 on stress level. Yeah. Although I think we both agreed today, felt a lot better because we finally are done with our rental in Lethbridge. Yeah. So now we will have no reasons to ever go down there again, other than to see our friends like David, Devin and Miranda and such. And yeah. Samantha, honey, I can't tell you how many people keep asking, how are you doing? And I was wondering if you wanted to tell people how this has affected you.
Well, it's been like difficult, but more for the reason that like I'm kind of more concerned about like you guys, you know what I mean? And I don't even mean this to sound cheesy, but like I am. So like I personally am like doing fine. I feel a lot more comfortable now that I'm back in my room, kind of thing. Because like this is my room, and it always has been. Like it's in my house. It's in, because like this is the house I grew up in. This is like my house, right? So like, I'm doing a lot better. I mean, I'll miss like my friend and like the chance for like maybe a bit of a bigger room, but now I can organize my room better so that I can actually utilize more space and stuff like that. So it seems bigger and like all that. So I'm personally doing like okay. But honestly, I'm more like concerned about like how you guys are doing, because like it's hard to see your parents like in a situation like this, it's hard because obviously I want you guys to be happy and stuff like that. So yeah.
I'm so sweet, honey.
That is sweet. Aw.
Yeah, but a lot of people have been asking about you, and I've been telling them because we were homeschooling prior, you were doing okay, and that afterwards, like now that we're back here, you've been able to see one of your friends that you grew up with. We're able to participate in a YouSay event as well. We actually, I wanted to ask you guys about a few other things, because like we're getting hampers for the first time this year for Christmas from our community. And, I never thought we would be on the receiving end. And I just have to say to my community, the Indigenous community, like, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful. Honestly, I know we're going to have a Christmas. I know we're going to be okay. I know by January, a lot of the EI stuff and at least one paycheck of mine will come through. So, it's not like we're going to lose the house, but holy, what I thought last year at this time was stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I have no idea how much worse it was going to get. Hey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's funny because of course now you sit down and you do take a few minutes, and like it's easy to look back on it now and see, like understand that things happen for a reason. And as hard as this is, we'll get through it. We'll figure out a way. Right now it's with community support, and that is the way it's supposed to work. And then when we have the chance, we will give back. but yeah, it's easy now to see like, oh, things work out the way they should, but it doesn't, and I try to stay positive about that. Like, there's a reason for this happening. Something better is coming, or I was meant to learn something. And I understand that, and I can see it, but it doesn't take away the fact that you're like, yeah, but I still got to find a way to pay a bill. I still gotta, it's just all that stress of like living it's just in there. And man, the anxiety, it comes in waves, and it's like overwhelming at times. And then at times it's like, no, I'm feeling pretty good. And then 5 minutes later, you can just be sitting somewhere just like staring at the floor, and just, again, and it's like you're right back to that utter disbelief moment. And that's the part for me that's been very difficult, is just the ups and downs. And today was a good day because I didn't have so much bad anxiety that I couldn't even possibly think. So that's a good day. And then tomorrow is, anxiety day. And it's logically, I know this stuff. It's like, no, we're doing okay. We're not losing the house yet. And so you run through these things logically, because I'm trying to like, no, that's not true. That's not, but it's still like, I got the pit in my stomach. And like you said, the memory, I can't seem to remember things. I can't seem to focus on things. Like, somebody will tell me something and I'll just be like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking at you, you're talking, and then I'm like, but I didn't process anything you just said, because I'm so focused in my head on, oh shit, but what about this? So yeah. I think today was a big moment, and I'm hoping that I start to feel like I can put it behind me, just doing that final walkthrough, handing the keys over, and finishing up with kind of the living in Lethbridge phase. So I really hope, I have a lot of hope that this helps me start to move past this, because until now, of course, we still had that looming over. So it's kind of like we're still pulled in those two places. And I'm hoping now that I can feel like this is my home. It's my only home, and I don't have to pay for any other home. I'm hoping that it'll start to feel a little bit more optimistic and hopeful. But
yeah,
that's kind of where I sit right now. Is just heavy amounts of anxiety with like a complete utter fear of like tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's that awfulness where it's like, I hate that expression, it can't get much worse, because it can always get worse. And it's like, well, what worse is tomorrow? What worse is today? Right. And it's just that constant, like, not just anxiety, but I mean, we haven't even been eating properly, because I can't. How do you even eat sometimes, right? So that's just where we're at right now, where you just can't even force the food down. So it's been so hard trying to explain this. And again, like, we're one of how many families in Alberta going through job loss after job loss, EI problems after EI problems, and it's just constant. And of course, everybody votes federally blue and provincially blue. So these are the folks that took 10 years of dismantling the unions in Alberta. There's no safeguards anymore, and it feels really shitty. And the other part has been, prior to this last job loss in the last 3 weeks, like, even then we were trying to unpack all of these lies that our boomer parents had told us. That a good hard day's decent work means a good hard decent day, and you can feel good and have a roof over your head and food in your belly. It's like, that's not the case anymore.
No.
Like, they've shown all the evidence is out there. Inflation has gone up substantially, and never our wages. And we're just at the point where it's like, even in living in a modest home, modestly with like one vehicle, taking public transit, you can't afford shit.
No.
Like, nothing. You can't afford nothing here. And in Lethbridge, there wasn't even doctors. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe there was no doctors that I could even, if I didn't have it. This is a crazy story. It's impossible to believe, but once upon a time, in a galaxy far, far away, we had a Liberal candidate that was running in, at that time it wasn't Lethbridge. There was like the riding just above it was called Fort Macleod. And I got to know him and his crew. And his girlfriend at the time was actually becoming a pharmacist. And they were all from Lethbridge. And who was the corner store pharmacist when we showed up in June but her?
Yeah.
And thank God she was so amazing. She was the one helping me with my Narcan while I was down there so that I could give it to Sage Patrol or Bear Clan here in Calgary. And, and she was the one who, I was really excited Samantha would get to know and be able to talk to. Obviously it didn't work out that way. These are dreams and hopes now. We have to mourn and move on. And when we have time to mourn, because we certainly don't right now, that bigger picture of like, thank God I had her at least. And then on Alberta's website, they actually don't list if you're First Nation, you have this resource. I actually found that out from my friends. Thank God to my community online that there's like a network for Indigenous people nationally to get healthcare. Thank God for it, because it was the only thing that was helping me at that time. So so we submitted Sam's status because she's non-status. So to me, all of the services that are available to me should be available to her, aren't, of course. I want to give a shout out to my previous employer from Chaos, because she, one, gave us the best realtor on the entire planet, but two, she was helping us with Blue Cross. So like when you lost your job, I mean, your tooth fell out last night. What the hell?
That thing.
What the hell?
I know, but only a piece of it. I mean, you don't need the whole tooth, right?
Oh my God. So
yeah, like mystery teeth are falling out. Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine.
I don't have any stress issues.
Right? Oh my God.
I've pulled the hair out. I might as well start losing teeth now and just completely look like a hillbilly from Alberta.
Oh my God, it's funny. So I just want to finish by saying thank you to all our listeners for your love, your support, your generosity, to the Indigenous community for your ridiculous love, support, and generosity. I don't know how we got here, but I know it was because of you all. And I can't remember any of it. I can't remember names, but like literally we had hundreds give something. And as a result, we're here. And I can't thank you enough. And I don't know the future of this podcast, but I do know it was because of all of you that I'm here at all. So thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know my family really wanted to tell you how good your lasagnas were, your food was, like all the love and support, gas cards. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So with that, I think I better wrap up here. So let Samantha and then Dad, if there's anything else you wanted to add, please don't hesitate.
I want to go last. Why do I always have to go first?
Okay, Dad can go then.
Thank you.
Well, I just want to reiterate just a huge thank you to everybody. Even to people like our neighbors our Métis neighbors across from us who gave us a bunch of wild meat right before the last weekend before we went down to the last weekend going back down to Lethbridge, they gave us a big bag of meat again. And so now it's back in our freezer up here. And, it's things like that are just invaluable. But thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for food, for anything that, like, everything, honestly. Just everything.
Yeah. Whether it was like, offering to help us with resumes, asking what Darcy does for work, which is supply chain management and procurement for those interested.
Is anybody out there looking for a procurement guy?
Anyway, so just want to say thank you. And I'm really proud of this podcast, thanks to my husband being, pushing me to do it and then producing and editing it. Like, this podcast has given solutions, cultural safety training, cultural first aid, to create a safer space for Indigenous people of color, those with disabilities, and LGBTQ2+ to speak. Cheryl Ward, Chelsea Branch, and Alicia Fritkin of heretohelp.bc.ca put together what is Indigenous cultural safety, why I should care about it. I said it in the first 100 episodes, but the link is there. This information's out there. It's just a matter of people putting in effort to Google it. Their work are cultural action tools. I've said over 100 times in my podcast. Please support Indigenous work like that as part of your reconciliation work and settler understandings. I'm just lucky enough to highlight it and repeat it here. Internalized racism and lateral violence is another form of violence Indigenous and marginalized people face by the structure of racism imposed on these lands. RacialEquityTools.org, What is Internalized Racism by Donna Bevins. Seriously, if you are a person of any type of like Indigenous, LGBTQ2+, anything, learn what internalized oppression is, because I see it all the time. I had people, Indigenous folks recently be like, I'm going to deplatform you. I'm like, how are you going to deplatform someone who has no platform? But whatever. But that's internalized oppression. That's that self-hate that you inflict on each other when we don't have anybody caring for us, frankly. The opposite. All we have is barriers, and folks sucking the NDP or sucking the RCMP by the NDP on, or the federal liberals on us as Indigenous people, and pretending like, oh my God, I'm so offended that a Muslim woman got a job loss, when literally, we don't have financial opportunities or equality in any capacity in this country. If I don't white code, then I lose my job. Like it's so ridiculous. I can't even. So we have so many barriers against us. If you are a marginalized person, please learn what internalized racism is. If you're a brown woman, maybe learn a little bit about colonialism and how what happened to you there has affected you here, and why you're okay with oppressing Indigenous people here. Like all of this oppressed dynamics is part of internalized racism and sexism and all of the things. So please learn about them. Anyway, do's and don'ts for bystander interventions. So what do you do when you see something racist? If you were to Google it, you will find this by American Friends Service Committee and many other resources now that are available. So if you're in Alberta and you see racism, there's an Asian community that's put together this text, 1587 507 3838, and it's acttoendracism.ca, and they give you all sorts of resources. Indigenous have been talking about these issues, sharing our traumas in reports, commissions, and in public hearings, just so it can be regularly disregarded. No more. Honor our words. Honor the treaties. Listen to politicians and their policies and platforms. My husband and I were actually talking about how it is unfair to blame Jason Kenney for the deaths of people who had surgeries canceled, because literally you're the people voting for them. You are the people that are like, oh my God, I so love Jason Kenney, even though he's cut everything federally and provincially, I'm still going to vote for him. And then when grandpa dies, everybody's like blaming him. Sorry, folks, you have to listen to politicians and their policies and platforms, and maybe do a little bit of finger point. My uncle, one of my uncles says, for every finger pointing out, there's 3 pointing back. So as quick as you are to point out to, Jason Kenney is such an awful person that this person died. Like, this is longstanding stuff that you've just let happen. And it's not until it affects you personally that you're okay with it. But Indigenous people have been living in genocide while you all comfortably get to, worry about your taxes or maybe, your pension from your union. We'd have never had that security. And now you're seeing it full tilt. What happened to us? Anyway, if they don't recognize, yeah, go ahead, hon.
Oh, well, I'm just gonna say this is gonna be like, it's kind of harsh, but like, if you voted for Jason Kenney, on it personally, I believe that you are responsible for the murders that everyone blames you for him. Because if you didn't vote him in, he couldn't have done this shit. So honestly, I hold you personally more accountable, like more yeah, like I personally think that like you are much more to blame for everything that has happened. Well, not everything, but like all of the people denied medical services because our hospitals and healthcare has been cut down so much and all this shit. Um, you are personally to blame, or like not personally, but kind of personally to blame. Like if you blame Jason Kenney, but you vote for him, you are much more of a um indecent human being.
Well, I was gonna say um, that they're complicit, and they are, in the weapon, frankly, because
Yeah, and a terrible human being.
well, I appreciate you saying that, honey. And I think it's important people understand this is how you feel too. If a politician doesn't recognize marginalized people in their budget with Gender Equity Plus, they're cutting violence prevention programs and services, Indigenous education, uterus health choices, gay straight alliances. You just have a lack of human rights for migrants, immigrants, folks with disability. Know that your vote to that party directly impacts negatively marginalized people. And I'm going to say this federally. Darcy, you were just telling me about it was the federal Liberals that had voted against disability income going up. I don't know how people sleep at night voting against something like that, but whatever. Know that your vote to that party is directly negatively impacting marginalized people. Demand that they implement the Truth and Reconciliation Commission calls to action, the recommendations of the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples, the multiple reports about child welfare reform, violence prevention. Now we have 231 calls to justice from the National Inquiry. I say these reports because people get all upset that stuff is happening. Like there was this family that was here in Calgary, and the report just came out about they lost family to a drunk driver. But the Calgary police have done a report, and they're fine, and they even consulted with the Crown, and they're quite happy with the results, even though they never charged anybody for drunk driving when it came to the loss of life. You're all okay with that. And if y'all listen to some of these reports that I just said, literally has the answers of solutions that benefit white people, that benefit Black people, that benefit Muslim women, everybody. It literally benefits everybody. And people are like, wow, this just comes from those goddamn natives, so I don't want to fucking listen to them. And it's like then you're really shooting yourself in the foot, because the natives are like, hey, this is a problem, here's a solution, and here's a report on that. Here, we'll make you a new report. Yeah, here's another report. At a certain point, these recommendations and solutions are there. And at a certain point, like, I don't know what it's going to take for average settler Canadian to be like, oh my God, I have a personal responsibility to learn about these reports, do something about it, hold my people accountable. But they don't. And they certainly don't vote for bitches like me who are like, I have solutions. Anyway, denying these reports is a form of abuse called gaslighting. Our people are experiencing extreme racism in the justice, educational, health, economic institutions, with multiple reports that say the same thing. Demand change from election platforms and politicians. They don't understand colonialism, racism, and business for that matter. They should be doing way more, and they're not. I was literally standing in a lineup and I heard two people behind me. Wow, I heard those wetsuit twin chiefs actually kicked out those pipeline workers. Must be nice to have that kind of power. Like, no concept of oppression dynamics. So if folks don't understand colonialism, racism, privilege, sexism, they literally have zero business running for office, running a bloody business, anything public service. Should be understood by all parties, local politicians, community organizations, sports clubs. A really great article I said out loud in episode 62 is Truth Before Truth, how non-Indigenous Canadians become allies. Unfortunately, there's books about it now. Lee Miracle has one, Bruce McIver has one. There's so many out there that are like, hey, guess what? Reconciliation's not working. Guess why? And once again, it's in a book. And Canadians are like, oh, wow, I think those playoffs are starting. If you're experiencing emotional distress after anything we talk about today, call the First Nation and Inuit Hope for Wellness helpline at 1-855-242-3310. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can also text on their website, hopeforwellness.ca. I tried it once, it didn't work. And I tried to call them to tell them, and then that became its own thing. So I'm like, okay. If more related to missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit, you can also call 844-413-6649. It's toll free 24/7. And again, if none of these numbers are working, there's usually a functioning 211 in major cities. And you can also call 833-456-4566, Indigenous or non. There's a 60 Scoop Indigenous Society of Alberta at ssisa.ca. If you go to #survivor-driven, that's what they're trying to use. If you see or experience racism, again, the Asian community put together acttoendracism.ca that you can text at 587-507-3838. The Trevor Project has lots of resources for LGBTQ2+ and trans, specifically, and peer support, all of those things. So go to the Trevor Project for more information there. LGBTQ2+ youth support line 1-800-268-9688. Sorry. You can also text at 647-694-4275. And of course, for old people like me who's even used the kids help phone, 1-800-668-6868. And if you go to lifevoice.ca, there's tons of crisis supports there. Violence is my everyday reality. Every Indigenous generation has faced it. That's why I started this podcast. Speak freely without interruption, without tone police, without leadership shaming, without gaslighting questions, as many people don't want to hear Indigenous opinion, but sure want to tell us theirs. People who don't know anything about colonialism, constant surveillance of Indigenous people, our protests, our vigils, our rights, microaggressions, people dealing with internalized racism, people who are gatekeepers and live off the status quo. And then now I'm one of those people that are really in trauma, and I'm going to have to stop doing the work because my personal resources are depleted. Internal, external racism is an everyday reality for Indigenous people. And that's why I needed this podcast. I want to say thank you to my ancestors. Uncle Gordy, I know today's your birthday. Thinking about you. My granny, my mama, what strength looks like through your example. I want to thank my dad for teaching me to be strong and blunt. My stepmom for showing me what a proud culture is through her Austrian family and roots. Stepping up for teaching me how to be a proud Calgarian. Just through her, I'm a second generation proud Calgarian. I want to say thank you to my husband, Darcy, not just for being on my show today, but for producing and editing this show. On top of being my husband, my childhood friend, the father of our child, he has supported me down my journey of the Red Road. He has witnessed decades of racism and sexism. And to Samantha, we are blessed that we get to learn from you daily. And we are really honored you chose us. You give me daily accountability to be a better, stronger person. And I hope one day my family will be proud that we tried to discuss these issues in this podcast. My Patreon account is Native Calgarian, where you can pledge and support. Thank you to the previous donors for showing your support through this incredible run of podcasts that we had, and for this awful experience that we just had. I can't thank you enough. If you value listening or watching and can afford to give, thank you. To those that cannot afford to give, reviews help. Love to hear from you at nativeyyc@gmail.com. I have a YouTube channel that you can go and subscribe. nativecalgarian.com has the latest podcasts and pinned posts. And I'll end with a side eye to all those Calgary rabbits. You're lucky I'm not tradish. And my beautiful cousin.
Otherwise, you'd be in my dish.
Thank you so much for listening and supporting this show for over the years. Really appreciate it. And we'll see what happens. But for now, just know how much we needed you and appreciated those who actually listen, those who actually follow me, for all of the support you gave. Thank you.